How do you get your first job as a new mortgage advisor? How do you do that? Well, to be honest, it's pretty tough, actually. I think getting a job as a broker when you first start out and you've been qualified and stuff, I think that's probably one of the hardest bits to do, because there's multiple different routes into this industry. There's multiple different routes in, and each route is completely unique and requires a bit of understanding as to how to get into it that way. So we're going to unpack that today. Got my notes down here, so let's dive into it. So the first one I'd say is look online at recruitment sites, which sounds pretty obvious, and it is pretty obvious for that reason. You know, it's obvious. So look on recruitment sites is going to be one of the first things you want to do. Now, when it comes to looking at recruitment sites, you're going to be looking predominantly, the ones that are going to pop up are going to be estate agency based ones owned by Connells or one of its subsidiary companies, really. So you're going to have things like William H. Brown, Sequence, Barnard Marcus, like Partnership, Sharman Quinney. You're going to have maybe the countrywide arm of that, but again is owned by Connells, Taylors, Abbott's, all these other things. There's lots of different brands that all fall under this very large umbrella company, which as you get more and more into this industry, you'll start to understand the kind of politics of how this works. They're going to be the main ones who actually promote, and sometimes they'll even be qualified. They'll qualify you. Not sometimes, they will. They'll qualify you. So if you know, that's one of the things to look at when you're doing this one, is they're going to be the main route. Easiest route in usually is that they're going to pay your salary, work very long hours. I've got videos on this channel already talking about what it's like working for them. I actually started my career there. I've got a video talking about that, so you can feel free to check that one out. But that is probably the first layer. The next one you have is you can look at reaching out to local firms in your area. Now, this is harder because most local firms won't have the budget, or they're not looking to recruit somebody, and so you can reach out to them. One of my advice for this is reach out to them when you're studying CMAP. This is what I normally find when I work with clients. Some of my clients who do employ people, they usually employ someone who's reached out to them 6 months, a year before, and they're like, hey, look, I'm studying my CMAP, and once I study, I'll be really interested. Could you keep me in mind? So there's somebody who's constantly on their radar. That is another way of doing it. And it can be really beneficial to do that, but you've got to make sure that you know the local firms. You can look them up online. You can look them up on LinkedIn. You can look them up. And that's what I probably do. I'd probably look them up on social media, and then I would probably reach out to them on social media. And I would, if they've got a local office, I'd go in and speak to them and say, hey, look, I'm studying my CMAP. There's no pressure here. There's nothing worse than to say, there's no pressure here. I know that I'm not looking for a job now or anything like that. But if I was to get qualified, I really like what you do, and I've done my research on you. Would you be interested in potentially taking me on as a trainee, or that's something that is really worth doing. It's really worth doing. Another one is using Facebook groups is quite good. So there's a lot of groups out there. Like you've got the CMAP group, which is great. This CMAP Facebook group is absolutely awesome. Like I'm part of that group and do a lot of stuff in there, and it's wicked. So I really highly recommend that one. But probably not great for finding a job. But there are ones, if you go into the larger groups, like the Mortgage Pro group and stuff like that, you will be able to put your pro group. There's another big one that's got about 15,000 members in it. You put it in there, just say you're looking for a job. People will pick you up on it. Absolutely, they will. So whether or not it's a good job, whether or not it's something you actually can do, that's a different story. But there will be opportunities in there. So Facebook groups can be very, very useful for that. The other one is, and this is actually interesting, is CMAP trainers. So a lot of CMAP trainers and a lot of CMAP providers, the one that I recommend to people who speak to me about this is Charlotte from Future in Finance. She's a friend of mine and she's awesome. She does great work. But a lot of the CMAP providers have connections into networks, into firms who will then train you. So that's actually quite common. And I know that a lot of the big CMAP providers do that too. They place you with firms and stuff. So in fact, quite a lot of them, that's kind of their main business model, is like recruitment fees through the firms. So definitely worth speaking to your CMAP provider, like I was in your training provider, not CMAP provider like as in the LIBF, whatever, but the actual like CMAP trainer, and see if they have connections, because a lot of them do, especially if they've been in it for a long time, and they might have an inroad, which can be good. And the other one to look at is networks. More if you want to go self-employed, that's normally probably going to be the other three that I've said, the Facebook groups, reaching out to local firms. The first one really is the main employed one, looking online. You're going to find jobs, employed jobs advertised. The rest of them are going to probably lean more towards self-employment, which is fine. It's normally better, to be fair. But networks, knowing which networks will take you on without having a job. So one of the main networks that spring to mind with this is Connect. So Connect for intermediaries, they are the main network that I would recommend when people ask me, who will take on people who are completely just qualified with no CAS, no competent advisor status, they will take them on. And that is really, really cool. So there are networks out there. You can just got to find them. Dragon does it too. Mixed reviews on Dragon. I like the team at Dragon, but I have people tell me different reviews. But I have people tell me different reviews for Connect as well. So I think the best thing is to have a chat with different people and see what people say. But there are networks out there who will take you on as a trainee and train you up. So that's quite good. Not every network will do that, so you have to be aware of that. But some will, and that's usually their USP. Now, how do you actually get the job? How do you land the job? Those are the ways to find the job. How do you land the job? Well, the biggest way to land the job, I kind of hinted at it earlier, but is that you need to be valuable. You need to bring value to the table. If you're not bringing any value to the table, why on earth would they want to speak to you and work and have you work for them? They just won't. So you've got to show some tenacity, show some kind of understanding of the business, and show some personality. I say this a lot in my main channel or my podcast channel. So my main channel is Ash Borland. You can check it out. I do a weekly video every Monday. But the thing I say all the time is like, you are the unique selling point. In a regulated industry like mortgage advice, you're all selling the same products with all the same stuff. Connells and that won't tell you this. They'll say, we got access to exclusive deals and all this rubbish, which yes, it's technically true, but it's not the real reason people use you. People use you because they want to work with you. So when you're going to a firm and you're trying to be employed or you're trying to land a role, you need to show them that you're somebody that people would want to work with, that you have something about you, that you're likable, that there's something about you that makes people want to actually spend their money and talk to you. And that's the skill. It's harder. It's easier said than done. It's harder than it looks. Two ways of saying the same thing, but it is. And that's what you got to try and show. So your CV is important to a point, but not really. What's really important is how you appear on the interview. Massively important how you appear on the interview. Are you likable? Do you look like you're somebody who could hold a conversation? Do you look like somebody who could stay cool and calm in situations they might not actually know the answers to? Because that's 90% of this job, is that you're going to be in front of a client with a situation that you don't really understand, and then you're going to go, well, I'll have to look it up, but you've got to look like you're still the authority and in control. That's a really hard skill to have. It's a very hard skill. So that's what they're going to be looking for. So when you're going into these roles, reach out from the moment they come in. Think that I'm going to be the person that you want me to be from the day one. Show them I'm a competent, strong person who's going to lead and take control of the situation. That's what it is. Not arrogant, not an idiot, but just being somebody who they actually like and they want to talk to and they remember. Being someone who remembers is great. The other thing as well is following these people up. Like I said to you at the beginning, reaching out to like local firms, going in and speak to them when you're getting qualified and going, hey, look, I'm getting my qualifications. I'd love to work with you. And then reaching out to them 2, 3, 4 times as you go along. Hey, I'm just past my CMAT 1. I hope everything's going well with you. Is there any chance I could go for a coffee with you or something? And you could tell me more about the job. I really would love to learn. Like, praise them and talk to them and be in contact with them. Because guess what? That's the job. Follow up and sales. And that's what you're doing here. So if you do all of that stuff, you'll get a job. And then the next bit comes in, obviously, learning what to do. But realistically, you can do it. But the hardest bit of this is people just they expect the job to land on the desk. And I get messages from people all the time, I can't find a job. And I'm like, well, go out and look. Go out aggressively every single day and look. You will find them. But there is a lot of people who are qualified, but not a lot of people who are very good at sales and a lot of people who are maybe suited for the job. And so you've got to this is where the first hurdle comes, push through. So look online, reach out to local firms, use Facebook groups. CMAP trainers can have access to it. I know Charlotte has some on there, and look at the networks who'll do it, and you'll be fine. Now, if you are then going to become a mortgage broker, part of the job is it's incredibly stressful. And so I broke down why it's so stressful and how you can overcome that stress and how you can kind of handle it and learn to deal with it. I talk about that in this video on screen right here. So give it a click and I'll see you in the next one.